Once upon a time, in a large city, there was a young man named Lee. Overwhelmed by the tragedies in his life, Lee decided to lead an isolated existence. The apartment he moved into, Green Home, was one of the city's oldest buildings and was mostly vacant. On his first day, Lee met his neighbors, Jin, an energetic and friendly college student, and Sun-ho, a mysterious and quiet man. Both were affected by Green Home's strange atmosphere, but no one wanted to talk about the building. Late in the night, strange sounds began echoing through the apartment's corridors. Curiosity got the better of Lee, and he ventured out. The hallways were empty and silent, but after a few minutes, Lee found Jin collapsed in front of Sun-ho's door, his face etched with terror. As Lee tried to help Jin up, bizarre, supernatural screams emanated from the depths of the building. These sounds awakened Lee's darkest nightmares. They realized they were not alone in the building and that everyone residing there was in danger. After helping Jin to his feet, the two hurriedly started moving through the building to wake the other residents and act together. However, when they knocked on each door, no one responded. The entire building seemed suddenly deserted. Lee and Jin slowly began to understand the truth. Green Home was no ordinary apartment. The building was slowly consuming its inhabitants, pulling them into its dark secrets. The duo realized they had to work together to unravel this mystery and survive. As Lee and Jin moved through the dark, silent corridors, they learned more about the building with every step. When they reached Sun-ho's apartment door, which was ajar, the faint voices inside drew them in. The apartment was filled with old, used items. Every corner whispered of another time. They found Sun-ho sitting in the middle of the room, his eyes glowing in the dark. When he noticed them, a look of relief appeared on his face. Finally, he said, "Others have seen it too." Sun-ho began to recount Green Home's past. The building had witnessed a series of tragic events years ago. Each floor and each apartment trapped the spirits of those who had once lived there. These spirits tried to communicate with the newcomers, either warning them or trying to draw them into their own fates. Lee asked, "What do these sounds and visions mean?" Sun-ho replied, "They are trying to reach us, but each tells its own story. It's hard to understand." Suddenly, a noise from outside the apartment caught their attention. They rushed out and encountered a shadow standing in front of the door of another apartment in the corridor. As the shadow slowly approached them, Lee instinctively reached for the baseball bat on his shoulder. As the shadow drew closer, it began to take on a human form. A woman's silhouette became clear. "Help me," she whispered, her voice weary and sorrowful. Lee lowered the bat. "We are listening. What do you want to tell us?" The woman revealed she was a former resident of the building and had died in a fire. "This building was our last refuge," she said. "We never found peace here, and neither will you. You must find a way to leave or you will be trapped here forever." Shocked by this information, Lee, Jin, and Sun-ho decided to heed the woman's warning and plan an escape. However, escaping from a building filled with dark secrets was not going to be easy. As Lee, Jin, and Sunho progressed through the labyrinth-like corridors of Green Home, they were confronted with echoes of the building's dark past at every step. With the woman's words echoing in his mind, Lee declared, "We have to get out of here, no matter the cost." The trio headed towards the building's old management office. Perhaps there they could find old plans showing the structure of the building and escape routes. When they arrived at the office, they wiped the dust off the door and entered. The room was filled with old files, newspaper clippings, and abandoned personal belongings. When Jin opened a drawer, he found an old newspaper article. The article mentioned that the building had once been used as a mental hospital and talked about the horrific experiments conducted there. These experiments had permanently trapped the souls of the patients in the building. With this knowledge, the trio realized the building was not just a physical prison, but also a metaphysical one. Sunho said, "If we don't free these souls, none of us can leave." Changing their plans, the trio descended to the lowest level of the building. This area had been where the experiments were conducted and where the spirits were most concentrated. With all the courage they could muster, Lee, Jin, and Sunho decided to perform a ritual to release the spirits. As they completed the ritual, the building began to shake. Cold winds blowing through the corridors signaled the passage of the freed spirits. The trio realized the ritual had been successful and quickly moved to escape the building. Finally, when they reached the door, the first light of morning hit their faces. Looking back, there was no trace of Green Home's former eerie appearance. The mist rising from the building symbolized that the spirits had been freed and were now at peace. Lee, Jin, and Sunho looked at each other and took a deep breath. They had survived, but most importantly, they had saved dozens of innocent souls. This was not just a physical escape, but also a spiritual victory.